Morning, everybody. I'm Captain Tommy Scoble, and you were on. That sounded good. The lifeboat. The heck is that? Hold on. Sorry about that. I got a 5x5. Maybe I got lucky and you didn't hear any of that. That just was horrible, wasn't it? Good morning. All right, so here's the deal. I'm going to be doing some talking about the Menendez case. So I should dive into it instantly because all of the people who are catching this are going to catch it because it says Menendez on it. And most of them aren't going to know me. And if we start doing like roll calls and all that, we're just going to bum out all of the people that are just showing up. So let's bum them out, because if they can't handle that, right, they should probably find a different channel anyway. Midnight Show. Armin, how you doing? Henny, Sandy, Wendy, good to see you. Queen of Awkwardness, Iced Autumn, what's happening? San Diego Cat Lover. And there's Pajama Pixie coming in from Texas. Doodle Mom, what's happening? Louise G, good to see you. Nicola, glad you're here. Mean it. Hope things are nice in Yorkshire this morning. Beachcomber, aka Cucumber. Dennis the Menace, good to see you. Kelly B. Tammy, good to see you. Zelda, glad you're here. Bliss and Zoe, Kimmy Blue. All right, we are going to talk about these dirtbags, I promise. And here's the thing. They may not be dirtbags. I mean, this is really odd, people. This one's literally going to floor you. Christy Cummington, Nat B from Canada. Nat B, I'm so glad you're here. Thank you, Ben. You should see the paws on that dude, man. Holy crap, he's got big hands. Lori, good to see you. And I want to tell you something, Ben. Let me give you a make your Monday morning, right? So I met Ben, and my takeaway, this is a big dude, right? Very nice guy, but the guy's got paws like you would not believe. And that was one of the takeaways. Relatable Reese, good to see you this morning. I didn't know you got up this early. The takeaway was the fact that this guy's hand was huge. And then after I left, the number of people who said to me, especially women, Ben, just keeping it real on your Monday morning, the number of women who said to me, and you have no idea what a nice man he is. And I felt like saying, why do I not know? Like, I guess I get that a lot from people too. Anthony Powell, it's a good thing you're here, man. A lot of people asking about you too. We're going to be seeing Anthony a little later in the week. Anthony's going to be talking about what's going on in his life, because there's some heavy stuff going on. So the Menendez case, like, are we honestly talking about the Menendez case? This case gripped a nation. This was one of the really big ones, people, as big as any other case ever. This one gripped the entire world because it was just such an amazing story, right? So two brothers separated in age by a couple of years, 2 years, right? So the younger brother, Eric, same age as me, born same year. I'm so happy that she's here. Then what happens is they have a very privileged life. Dad works for a bunch of different corporations growing up, kind of through climbing the corporate ladder, but a lot of it had to do with entertainment. And this is where this is starting to get weird. So here's what happens. If you do not know this case, you lived somewhere really odd. But the sons drive down to San Diego one night in the late 80s. They both buy a shotgun. Then they drive back home. They walk into the house and they blow their parents away. But they don't do it like you're just trying to get this done. They do it like they're really pissed. These guys unloaded on their parents with shotguns in the face. Now, I'm not doing this for graphic effect. I'm doing this because it's completely relevant to this story, right? You shoot someone with a 12-gauge shotgun, the job's done, right? You shoot someone with a 12-gauge shotgun at close range, the job is really done. To rack the next one in and do it again, and then to rack the next one in and do it again, right? And stand there and do that to your mother. I always struggled with the brutality of the murder. I really did. Even back then, I thought to myself, you're doing this for cash and you're trying to make it. Why don't you just go in and put one in the dude's head and leave? What's the purpose of unloading an entire shotgun? I mean, the amount of noise alone, right? In Beverly Hills. Well, a psychiatrist would say to you, this shows rage, right? And anybody that's into true crime would say, this shows rage, like ludicrous amounts of rage. And at first, these kids don't pop up on the radar. right? The guy's worth 12 million and some change at a time when that was a lot of money. It's not so much today, believe it or not, but that was a lot of money. So they figured, right, there maybe there was some mob and stuff involved, and it got crazy for a while. But the first thing they did was buy a couple of Rolexes, and then a 911, and then some real estate. And then one of the brothers started to invest into a business, and all of this happened really, really quickly after the murders. And then something screwy as hell happened at the funeral that people are still talking about. All right. During the eulogy, one of the sons said, "You know, my father used to say to me that there was no way I would ever be able to fill his shoes. He said it every day." Oddly enough, I'm standing in his shoes as I'm telling you this. That didn't sit well. Good morning, Johnny Scoville. That didn't sit well, right? For a lot of people. Now, they go to court. They go to trial, and guess what? It's a hung jury. You know what this means, right? First of all, the most bizarre thing that has ever happened in the history of court, as far as I'm concerned, they tried them together, but with separate juries. Like, I don't understand exactly how that works. Maybe a lawyer can make me understand why the heck they did this. But there were two separate juries, one for Lyle and one for Eric, right? Now, they can't come back and deliver a verdict of guilty. Now, the boys never said they didn't do it. I mean, once they were charged. In the beginning, they called the 911. There was a big cover up. They tried to cover everything. Then they were charged with murder. But the first jury heard about the child molestation charges from the kids, the boys, that dad was molesting them. And enough of the jury believed it that they said, we're not going to convict. So then they charged them again. And let me explain to you how the legal system in the United States works. If you get charged again, you're dead, right? It is damn near impossible to win a second trial. It really is a hard thing to do. And I'll tell you why. Because number one, you handed them your defense. Here's exactly how I'm going to defend this. Now you can say, well, yeah, but the prosecution, they go back and it is almost impossible because now what they're going to do is they're going to put on a different prosecution. What the prosecution said was this: you know what? No, we don't believe that you got molested. That's what the second case was. We don't even believe it happened. It's a lie. You did this for cash, 100%. Trouble with that is these guys told people about it. Now there was, people to this day go, oh, they told a cousin. You can't believe the cousin. They told this person that, they were in on it. One of the people who has always stood up for them got a medical procedure paid for by the brothers shortly after the parents' death. Now, you know what? That may just taint it. Maybe for the rest of eternity, that looks like a guy that's paid off to the rest of the world. But when they tried them the second time, they got convicted and they were given life sentences without the possibility of parole, both of them. And they were sent to opposite prisons in the California system. Now, they killed their parents. It's not considered a messed up crime in prison. Might be considered a messed up crime in your head, right? I think most of us have a difficult time wrapping our head around that. But in a prison, that's not a child. That's not considered necessarily a messed up crime. These guys are walking yards, right? They're doing time. Oddly, they're getting educations, and they seem to be doing a lot of work, particularly the younger one, with survivors of early childhood SA, right? Assault. And 30 years has passed. And going through some storage, somebody found a letter. And the letter was from one of the people that testified on behalf of the Menendez brothers. The letter was written to him prior to the murders, obviously, and right around Christmas time. Now, there's no date on the letter, but references are made to, I just hired a new tennis coach. This is working out, blah, blah, blah. There's also a reference made to the Christmas party and this and that. It is a 3-page letter. It's super, super long. And about 3 sentences in there says, he's still doing it. Every single night, I wait for him to come into my room. Like, it's obvious as hell. There's no ambiguity. There's not any question about what he's talking about. He's talking about dad coming into his room at night and doing things to him. There's no two ways about it, right? And there were relatives who said, yeah, no, I believe this has been happening. But because there was that second shot at them, they changed what the case was. And the case didn't become, the case was you were never touched. Now, if they were touched, let's say that what was happening was real. Let's say that the family, right, was actually exactly what these two guys said that it was. They still murdered their parents. They still drove to San Diego to get a couple of guns to do it, right? That's premeditation like you read about. They drove all the way back. They picked up the shells because they knew that there would be fingerprints on them. They called 911, and then they just did everything they could to cover up their crime, right? That is textbook murder one. Everybody want to agree with that? Shelly Kelly, good to see you. It was an honor to meet you. Anyone want to disagree with me on that? Like, this is pretty textbook, cut and dry murder, unless it isn't. So if you were alive in the 80s, right, 70s, 80s, and 90s, you accidentally, or maybe on purpose, at some point, listened to a creation from a band called Menudo. Remember this? Okay, Menudo is a concept that's really kind of funny. The idea was this: the band's never going to get any older, right? For real. This is the idea. The band is never going to get any older. Everybody in the band's going to be like 14, 15, and 16. And when you hit 17 and your hair starts growing on your face, we're bouncing you out and we're bringing somebody else in that looks a hell of a lot like you, but the band never gets any older. And this was a thing, right? Started in Puerto Rico, in San Juan. And then it just, I mean, if you were in South America, this looked like the Beatles. If you run, and I was deep diving this crap, but if you run any video of these guys, I mean, holy crap, they were selling out stadiums. And then there were people like 100,000 people standing outside the stadiums. Like, unreal. But they were signed to the label that the Menendez old man worked at, right? So Eric and Lyle's father, trying to think of, hey, what was the Menendez old man's name? Kitty was the wife. What was the husband? I didn't used to need notes, people. Used to work out really well. He came, I mean, the story I got, Cat came from first generation American, came from Cuba, right? And married, and originally they were in Jersey, and he started working for RCA, moved out to Los Angeles. But this cat was working at RCA when they signed Menudo. One of the band members of Menudo has recently come out. He is my age. So same age as me, same age as Eric Menendez, the younger of the brothers, right in that age range that apparently was. Jose was the dad. Thank you. It's Jose and Kitty. Jose, according to this band member, and I want to tell you something. I'm going to use the word allegedly because you have to. Watch this guy talk about it and tell me if you think it's allegedly. But this guy's come out and said that Jose Menendez molested him in his California house twice. He also did it in New York right before and after he went on stage at Radio City Music Hall. The first time it happened, he said it's horrific to listen to, people. It really is. I wouldn't have wanted to put it up on here. Calhoun can do it. I don't want, it's horrific. But this guy describes what this guy did to him with drugs. He drugged him. And this changes the entire dynamic of this friggin' case. I don't care how you feel about this, but you can't have it both ways, right? If you change your prosecution to say it never happened, right? It never happened. Well, if it happened, well, it's not murder one, right? Murder one is when you kill somebody for no freaking apparent reason. If you've been getting molested your entire life and you snap, even if that snap means that you drove for 3.5 hours to get a shotgun, drove 3.5 hours to get back. If you didn't endure that for 10 or 15 years, then I don't think you could stand there and say, this is what a normal person does in that situation. There's no such thing as what a normal situation is. It's not a normal situation. The person is no longer feeling like a normal person, I assure you. There's this evidence, I promise you, right? Jose Menendez, research this and watch this kid talk about it. He has zero vested interest, by the way, in doing this. People say, why didn't he come forward? Are you kidding? He's a man. If that one doesn't make sense to you, then you probably don't have testicles. But there's something about men, it takes courage at a level you can't imagine. For a woman to come forward and admit this kind of assault takes courage. I don't think the average person can wrap their dome around. With men, there's an added stigma to it, right? You should have been tough enough to kick that guy's butt, right? There's all of this stuff that really, and to do this, so this guy doesn't look like the prosecution painted. He wasn't the all-American guy, right? Now we have this letter. Now, sadly, the guy that letter was written to is dead. He took the stand. And it's funny because I saw some of the people from the prosecutor's office talk about the new evidence. And they said, that letter, they could have written that, 25 years ago or whatever, and put it away with the plan that it was going to be discovered. Let me tell you something. If you're sitting in prison with a plan to get out, you're not going, okay, tuck this thing into a storage facility and just let somebody find it whenever they come across it. 10, 15 years, 20 years, 30 years, whatever, whenever they come around. Trust me, that didn't happen. That's just plain stupid, right? And their other defense was, this guy took the stand. Why wouldn't he have said, hey, he wrote me a letter a couple of months ago where he mentioned it? Well, I don't know, right? I can't answer that. And neither can he, right? But I wrote a lot of letters. Remember, like, for those of us of a certain age when we couldn't text, right? The first girl that I ever dated, I probably wrote her 8 million notes, right? That was communication. That was texting. That was everything. So they corresponded a ton. This letter was 3 pages of all kinds of stuff and a couple of sentences that says he's still doing it. May not have jumped off the page at him, especially if it's something that he said often, right? He took the stand and said, yeah, he told me about it. He did. He told me about it. And they said, we don't believe him. We just don't believe him. You know why? Because Jose wouldn't do that. He was a solid cat, right? Not the kind of guy that would have done that. You know what's odd too? Apparently, he took zero interest in any of the artists that he worked with. Like, there's no history of Jose hanging out with bands except Menudo. Odd, right? But he would follow this band around. Like, he would actually go. He went to New York to catch shows. He went on tours. Do you think he just dug that genre? Because if you've never heard that genre, I think you're going to be 12, 13, and 14, right? And from that part of the world. We're certainly speaking that language, right? It's not, they don't sing in English. You thought you couldn't lie on the stand. You can't just not believe him. You have to hold him in contempt. I thought, well, here's the deal. So somebody down the rabbit hole. Look at you. Welcome, Rab. It's always an honor to have you here. So here's what happens. The guy that took the stand was answered every question honestly. He said, they asked him, did Eric, the younger of the brothers, ever confide in you? Because Eric told, when you go in for depositions, they say, did you ever tell anybody about this? Because you're telling the world now that you blew away your parents because you were being molested. Did you tell anybody? Because it seems like, and he said, yeah, here are the people I told. He didn't say, no, I didn't tell anybody. He gave them a freaking list. And by the way, in the first trial, those people all came in and testified. They all came in and testified. But the way the second trial went, almost nobody could come in and testify that way. It was a completely different structured event because you give the state a chance to come at you a second time, and they will structure that stuff in such a way that the judge is going to go, for this defense, no, this isn't relevant. Because what we're saying now is, X or Y, the outcome becomes a completely different thing depending on, you hand the court a document. Here's what our defense is going to be. Right? You do realize that a judge can go, we're not going to let you use that defense. You have to tell them ahead of time. It's a process. But boy, oh boy, when a prosecution gets a second shot at somebody, I don't know anybody that gets away. That's why they hated John Gotti so bad. They had 2 shots at John Gotti, right? He got away twice. Second time that they had a hung jury, or no, the second time they found him not guilty. And what did they do? They came up with RICO, right? The racketeering influenced, crime organization crap, where you can charge 250 people on the same crime. And then they charged him the exact same way. They had the exact same case. Look, I don't care if you like John Gotti or don't. What we did to him was filthy. Filthy. The term double jeopardy in this country means one thing. Convicts never get this right, ever. But here's what double jeopardy means. If you are tried for a crime, you're O.J. Simpson, right? You're tried for that crime, and you walk out onto the steps of the courthouse. You can go, yeah, I killed her. Killed him too. Guess what? Have a nice day. Because they can never charge you twice for the same crime. If you have been found not guilty, nothing can ever make them charge you for that again. They don't care if you admit to it, right? That's double jeopardy. It's every time somebody uses it, they use it wrong. But that's exactly what they do, right? They charge you, you get found not guilty like Gotti, and then they rewrite the laws. They rewrite the laws. They take the exact same case, they go back to court, call it a federal case instead of a state case, and they knew exactly what to ask. They knew exactly what the questions were going to be. They knew what the defense was going to be. They had 3 shots at him. Kill the mother. Did she turn a blind eye? Yes. According to, again, this is alleged, but according to the brothers, the mother was aware of everything that was going on and turned a blind eye to this. And according to one of the brothers, so was her brother. So Kitty's brother was aware of this as well, according to Eric Menendez. And you know what's odd? That particular uncle is the most virulent, hating of all of the relatives. Most of them say, you know what, maybe, some of them say, you have no idea how bad a guy Jose was. There were relatives who just said, you cannot imagine what it was like for these kids living in that house. That was the first trial. A bunch of people said that, right? But in the second trial, they convinced the world that this dude would not touch anybody. He wouldn't have done that. Yeah. Talk to the cat from Menudo. Now, he didn't just come out and say this, by the way. There's court documents are out there, all of it. And pros are going to tear this thing apart. You're going to see a lot of this on the internet because this is just coming out now. And now what we're doing is we're waiting because we're going to see what the judge says about this evidence. This is yes, there was a cousin who stood by the brothers. This is the letter. Hey, Russ, good to see you, my brother. This is the letter that I was talking about, right? The letter that was found was written to that cousin. That cousin took the stand and testified for them. And by the way, you can watch that. The first trial was televised. The second one was not. They didn't let anybody watch the second one. You can get the transcripts. You can read it. Certainly not nearly as much fun from a true crime, but go ahead and watch the first one. And here's the deal. I don't think that I honestly do not believe for any second, personally, my opinion, I think that this guy was doing this to his kids. I believe that. I do. And I think that when you check this out, when you see the grown man, he's my age, right? But when you hear him talk about his experiences, plural, with Jose Menendez, I think you're going to walk away. They did confide in an aunt as well, Charlie. Correct. A bunch of people. This was not one of those cases where somebody went, no, there's not. Oddly enough, this happened to them for all those years, and they did not tell one human being, right? By the way, that happens. Do you understand? That happens. One of the things that came out was that in Eric, the younger of the brothers, would say that the father was telling each of them, if he finds out, like if your brother finds out, I'm killing you. Killing you. Right? Both of them say this is what that each of them were being told, that if the other ever found out, he intended to kill them. Each. I mean, neither of them knew about the other. And the story is that when they did, once these guys started to talk to one another. Now, do we know? We're never going to know. There's so much of this we're never going to know. But I will tell you this. If you've ever seen what a shotgun can do to a piece of wood, right? Or whatever. You want to get into a door, right? They make rounds to come out of a shotgun that will blow a door off. Right? They will literally just blow the entire mechanism, the doorknob, all that. There's not much like it. This is a whole lot of ugly, right? Completely different concept than a rifle. The barrel is smooth. There's nothing making it just goes bang, right? It's a cannon that you put up to your shoulder. And I promise you, when they fired the first one, it was over. To go through that process of chambering the next round and chambering the next round and chambering the next round, you had to really hate somebody. That is an opinion. I'm not a shrink, right? Just the guy that went to prison has a YouTube channel. But does that sound normal to you? For real? Why not kill him with a 22? You want to make this look like a hit? These guys were pissed. This is how you kill someone that did this to you for that long. And I'll tell you something. The convict in you starts going, you know what? So these were a couple of chomos, right? One and someone who allowed it, right? The first case is horrific. You know what? I completely, Julie, I get where you're coming from. I get where you're coming from. This is one of those cases that's going to be hell. But I think I'm the first to admit right now that not only was I not particularly I've not been kind in things I've said over the years and other things to the Menendez brothers. And I thought even at the time, I guarantee you I've said, I don't care if you were getting that done to you, right? That's not what you do. But a lot has changed in my life since then, right? A lot has changed in my life since then. And I've met a lot of people that have survived a lot of really incredible stuff that you just cannot imagine that people could survive. And what I've come to realize is that nobody does it the same way, right? They all have to come up with a mechanism of survival that is remarkable. What the human being can endure and still pop out on the backside and be a human being. I've seen that. I really have. I've witnessed that in ways that you probably wouldn't even want to hear about. Russ could tell you stories too, right? But I certainly, I love my parents. I have such a struggle with the concept of taking, my mother or father's head off with a gun. I can't wrap my head around it. You understand? I can't. But the second time you shoot them makes you start going, whoa, that, good God, the level of hate. The level of hate had to be, I don't think that you could manufacture that for the 14 million, right? And there's no benefit. You understand that from a logical standpoint. Now, I'm going to tell you something else that in a second that makes this, that's going to sound like I shouldn't have said this, right? Julie, I agree with you again, hon. I really do. And I totally get where you're coming from. I do, right? I do. And I know people that have endured parents that I promise you were worse. But everybody inside the brain does things differently. Now, these kids were raised in wild privilege, right? Amazing privilege. They lived in Beverly Hills, right? This is the world that they knew. And they watched all this privilege and famous people and all of the stuff that kind of went around them in this circle. And I would imagine that $14 million bank account, what stood between them and that bank account was not parents to them, right? It was a torturer and somebody that stood by and watched. And I bet they thought, you know what? If they were gone, right? I get it. It may sound really horrific, but I get it. I don't justify it. I don't say, yeah, good for you or any of that crap. But oh boy, do I get it. Oh boy, do I get it. I'm sorry, I do. I think they went about it the wrong way. It's horrific what they did. It doesn't make sense to me. But The level of hate and anger that was going on with them was brought on by a lot of years. And every single person, did they do it right? No. No, of course not. And someday, we're going to live in a world, right, where the stigma of things is something that all of us are over. I have people who can't say to me, I'm addicted to alcohol because of the stigma. I have people who can't admit that they, have a drug problem. To admit as a, 17-year-old boy that this was happening. I wasn't really a man until I was 46. I'm not saying that for effect. I wasn't, right? I didn't become a man until I was 46. I can't imagine what was going through the heads of these kids. I can't. But I can absolutely understand the Rolex and the Porsche. What do you think of that? Makes perfect sense in my head. It really does. The relief of, oh my God, this person's never going to touch me again. Like all of this is over. All of that is gone. And yeah, the relief, I'm sure, was unbelievable. And I think they went out. I think they partied, and the optics were horrific. And you want worse? I'm going to give you worse, because I'm not making the case that I think these are good people. They're not, right? They're not. The older of the two brothers wrote a paper in college. Are you guys hip to this? He wrote a paper in college that was basically like a screenplay kind of a thing, right? And it was the story of two brothers that killed their parents for cash. It was their story. He just wrote it before it happened. No joke. And he wrote it a while before it happened. I don't want to misquote it, but it was not the year. It was not the year he was currently in. So let's say he was a junior or whatever. It had been a previous year of school. It was something that they had to go back and find. But he wrote what was the equivalent of like a screenplay detailing exactly what was going to happen. That's kind of messed up. It's kind of messed up. There's a lot of things in here that don't make sense. But here's the thing. We know they killed mom and dad. Nobody in anywhere, right? Anywhere is ever going to argue that. They don't. The question becomes, if dad was doing this and mom was saying, dad's going to do what he wants and you guys are just going to put up with it and live with it, and I don't want to hear about it, and they met the fate that they met, then those boys don't need to spend the rest of their life in prison, right? Got to go to prison. You killed two people. But do they then deserve to spend the rest of their life in prison? Because I'll tell you something. Here's where it gets fun legally. The state said he didn't touch them. If he did, then it's not murder, it's manslaughter, right? Now what these guys did was wrong, make no mistake. Maybe even you could jump it up to murder too, right? Or justifiable homicide or whatever, but there's something else that you're going to get, but you're not going to get life in prison. And they got 30 years in each. Dennis, I would love this as an idea, but do you know why this doesn't work? Because I know so many people that have beat them. It's incredible. Not joking. I cannot tell you the number of people I know that have taken polygraph tests, absolutely lied to them, and got away with it. Here's the thing with them. And this is, I heard this from a polygrapher. Polygrapher. Sounded like somebody that married too many wives. Am I doing something wrong here, Johnny? It is a polygrapher, right? Huh? Did I just make Mormons in Southern Utah angry? Can we say polygrapher? I think it's a polygrapher, somebody that gives a polygraph test. Anyone? Somebody back me up on this. Anyway, but I talked to somebody that gives polygraphs, or he had a bunch of wives. What? Right. Or he had a bunch of wives. But I was talking with this person about it, and they said what a polygraph test, 9 out of 10 times, it's going to work perfectly. But for the person that does not feel, right, what that thing is testing for is the fact that honestly, you kind of feel bad about the fact that you're lying. I mean, it really is what it comes down to. There has to be conflict in your body for that test to go screwy. Bundy didn't have a problem with it. There was no conflict in that man's body or mind. He was very comfortable doing the things that he did and lying about them. I'm glad that you appreciated that. Yeah, polygraphs don't work very well on psychopaths. On some psychopaths, they do. It's a hit or miss thing, but it depends on the person. First trial, the tennis coach came and not only said that the father was verbally abusive to the kids, but that tennis was not a fun thing around that house, right? And sadly, I watched, and I know that my brother is in another room right now. My brother was a ridiculously gifted tennis player, and just gifted. I don't know how hard Johnny worked at it. I'm not being a jerk. I just think he was kind of born with. That was just something he was really, really good at, and he was ranked in the whole nine. I think prior to the car wreck, he probably could have done it for a living. The car wreck really did him in, but he was a really, really good tennis player. But there was a kid where we grew up, and I think his father wanted that kid to beat my son more than anybody on earth. And he worked this kid. It looked like it was military. And my brother and I would leave the club and just go, my God, do you think they can enjoy this? Do you think he's having fun out here? I think we've all seen that kind of stuff. But the father was an overbearing prick. Even if, no matter what happened, this is not a good guy. I'm not suggesting to you that he should have met his end sitting on a couch, right? And having to go that way. It's not what I'm suggesting in the slightest. But I think that wasn't a good dude. The brothers, by the way, are at the same prison. This is something that happens from time to time, right? From time to time, this happens. But this is they have just recently, last couple of years, been moved to the same prison. Oddly enough, only one of them will even talk about this. They've been, obviously, people are reaching out left and right to try to get the brothers to comment on this in any way. One refuses to, doesn't want to talk about it at all. And the other just said, you know what? It's worthy of listening to. I'll tell you something, people. Spanky's great. Last night I went, hey, Spanks, get me that loser doing that happy dance. You got any idea how much time I've already spent fighting over that happy dance? Seriously, that you would not believe how much they are just a lot of fun. But what you have to do. So what I mean is this: I got a strike last night when we went to monetize that. We got a strike, copyright strike, for using 37 seconds of Jean-Claude Van Damme making a jackass out of himself on a dance floor. Now I'm going to tell you something. I don't care how you shake it. That's fair use. All right. If you have a brand new YouTube channel, let me explain this one to you. You can't take somebody's art and say, here it is, and make money on it. Right? Now, I can take someone's art and use 70 other things and wrap it around it and make that into some new art. And that's cool. Right? I'm simplifying the crap out of that. But I couldn't take an entire show. I could not have put that stupid film on and let you watch all of it. Right? But I could take less than 1/100th of the piece of art. And that less than 1/100th makes up less than 1/100th of my piece of art. I assure you that's fair use. So, but they scare you, right? They say, listen, you're demonetized because of this. And they say, you can fight this if you want. However, you can lose your channel, right? Like they try to scare the crap out of you. I'm like, no, I'm fighting this. Yeah, I disputed it. 30 minutes later, they kicked me back and said, no, we ruled against you. Now, you can take this to the next level. But if you do, right, you may end up in court. You may have to get your own attorneys. And the warnings just keep getting bigger and bigger and bigger. And I just keep going, yeah, I don't care. There's nothing that I did last night there's anything wrong with. If you read fair doctrine or fair use doctrine or whatever, nothing. Like this is the textbook case. So I'm like, no, screw you. And I hit it again. And then I got the very last one, oh my God, are you crazy? Are you sure you want to do this? You do realize, right? And then I went, no, I'm pretty sure. And I don't know what the response is. We can check real quick, but I'm done. No, here's the thing with the shorter clips. You can't get shorter than a minute, right? And I talked through the entire thing. If I am commenting on what the creator has made, then that's a creation. You understand? I'm not necessarily saying that I think that that's a good thing, right? Because right now, anybody can take one of my videos, and as long as they talk over me through the entire thing, they can do whatever they want. And they do. You would not believe how much of me is out there with people hacking on it. This is what it is, right? So I'm not out there chasing people down. I don't know why a movie studio with the cash they got are going to be salty that I use 60 seconds of a movie that is this point so obscure that I might have done them a favor, right? But one of the things too is in did you harm the film, which I always get a kick out of, right? Or did you harm the original art? I was thinking last night to myself, harm them?
You should set in the bill for free advertising.
I mean, harm them? I did say that was so cringy that it made me want to remove myself from planet Earth. I don't know that harmed him.
He knows exactly.
If I were him, I wouldn't leave my house. You could always get shorter. Ask Tom Cruise. Well played. Well played. Like what you did there. Like what you did there. If we can work in a Tom Cruise slash Scientology short joke, because it's only funny if it's him or the Garden Gnome. I think Tampa B's probably still sleeping, but she's a big fan of this. Every time I drink it, she comments on how lovely my bottle is. This is hydration packets. I got this new. I'm on this new hydration kick. Want to hear something else that's fun, people? So my Suboxone prescription could probably last me like 6 times longer than it needs to, because I'm not taking, and I tell them that, and they keep decreasing the dose, but they still give you, they never want you to be out, is what they don't want to happen. So I'm due to pick up a prescription. It's sitting, and I just got to go down there and do it. And I haven't done it. And I just kind of been putting it off, but I was out. So yesterday I took the last of it, and it was a very small piece. This morning I should have had it. And I was like, crap. And it's going to be, I got things I got to do. And then out of nowhere, I picked up a journal to write. And some morning I must have been journaling and put my medication in there, like then turn the page or whatever, because I was back looking for something else, and it fell out of about 3 weeks ago, 3 weeks back. But I got a big kick out of that, because it's funny to me that I live in a world now where I can find drugs. Do you know what I mean? There was a time in my life where I promise you, if there was any drugs in my life, I could tell you exactly where they were. There was the first article I ever saw written about an opiate that was written, I don't know how to word this. It seemed like a drug addict wrote it, and it didn't seem like it was bagging on it, but it was really, it was an article written about the drug epidemic, but not like, it sounded like I would have written it. That's, I guess, is maybe the best way to put it. It was the first time I ever read an article. The article started like this. It said, I don't know what day I married my wife. Each year I tend to forget that anniversary. He said, I have 6 kids and I don't remember when any of their birthdays are. He said, my wife's good about it. And I have little calendars and markers. He said, but currently in my golf bag, there are 7 Loratab. He said, in the glove box of my car. And he went down and talked about every place in his life that he had some Loratab tucked away. Right. I am in a place in my life now where I have to set an alarm to remind me to take my medication, or I forget about it. And if you had told me that there would be a place in my life where you would have to remind me to take a drug, I think that would have been a very funny conversation. Sure, that would have been a very funny conversation. Bayou Babe says, I used to stash my pills for later and forget where they were found. Found a couple of times, but I've told this story on the boat many times. But I had a Mercedes-Benz that got stolen and set on fire. And when the statutes of limitations is up on that, I'll tell you exactly what happened. But it got stolen and set on fire. And in the process of that happening, it was a summer day, right? So the hard top, because it was a hard top and a soft top underneath it, not the electric one. It was an antique Mercedes. So I had the hard top in the garage, and I had it on a little cart thing that you could wheel it around on. Well, I had robbed a dope dealer of literally like half a pound or something. We stole a bunch of heroin from a drug dealer. And actually, we stole it from a guy who stole it from a drug dealer. But we had a ton of this stuff. And I ended up stashing a pedazo, a piece, an entire 25-gram ball, and couldn't find it. And I mean, you talk about taking a house apart, like to the foundation. I tapped out. A year had gone by, right? This was lost. And the reason it was lost is because I did 3 Klonopin with Jack. And I don't know why the hell. I mean, I don't do benzos anyway, but I did 3 Klonopin, and we drank a couple of beers, and I had this great idea of where I was going to put this because it was going to be safe and blah, blah, and lost it. And we fought. Oh my God, the two of us went at it. But fast forward, right? Year and a half, I don't know. And I called the local car dealership, and I said, "Hey, I got the roof to this Mercedes-Benz. I got absolutely no use for it." He said, "Is it in good shape?" I said, "It is. You know, it doesn't even have chips on it, nothing." He goes, well, "What color is it?" I said, "Red." He goes, "Oh, let me call you right back. I know someone looking for it." Guy calls me back, and he goes, Can the dude come get it now?" I said, "He can come look at it. Yeah, if he wants to buy it, I'd send him over." So the guy comes by, and he says, "Can you bring it outside?" I said, "Yeah, I got it." I said, "I got to go in the garage and get it." And it had been sitting there. I hadn't touched it, nothing. So I went over there, and there's dust all over it. And yeah, I unzipped this thing to see what the inside of the thing looks like, and taped to it is this pedazo. And the really funny thing is, I'm trying to sell the damn roof to buy dope. So no joke, like 25 minutes later, I walk outside and this poor dude is like milling about in my driveway. Like, what is this guy doing? I went, "Oh, sir, I'm so sorry." I don't remember to lie. I probably told him I had an asthma attack or told him. But anyway, he got a really good deal on the roof of that Mercedes though, because I just wanted him gone at that point. I don't remember what he offered, but I was like, yeah, take it. Great, get out. Yeah, 25 grams. It was, and then I called Jack, and he was like, "Did you sell it?" Because he was waiting to come pick me up to go get stuff. I was like, "Yeah, but I found a chunk of stuff over here." And he's like, "Oh, you found the chunk." And he knew I didn't lose stuff. I don't lose stuff. Right? But you found a quarter pound of pot like that once, Kelly, a QP. When I had a friend, I've told this story on the boat too, but I had a friend that came by once, and I think Johnny Scoville may have just recently told this story, but the guy came by on a benzo, and he was wasted. He came by the house. He's drinking. I said, "What are you doing?" He's like, "I'm having a couple of beers." I said, "Didn't you just tell me that you took, right, a roach?" He said, "Yeah." I go, "Dude, you're going to black out. You can't drink on that stuff, man." And he's like, "I don't drive." And he didn't. He was a guy that there was no Uber yet, but he taxi cabbed everywhere. He was a dope dealer that didn't have a car. But he said to me, "Can you care if I leave some dope at your house? I'm gonna come by and get it tomorrow." He's like, "I don't want to be riding around." I said, "Yeah, no, leave it." So he left a pound of pot in my house. Then he came back, and I had this green leather couch, and underneath one of the seats was a drawer that pulled out, and that's where he had put it that day. But he came over, and he's going like this, and he's running his fingers through his hair. And I told him the night before, I said, "You're going to come back tomorrow, and you're not going to remember where this is. You'll be in a panic." I said, "But I'm a solid dude, and I'll tell you about it." And I swear to God, that's exactly how it went down. Johnny was with me, and we let him go for a while. He was running his fingers through his hair. I was like, "Hey, Sean, what's going on, dude? You look stressed out." He's like, "Man, I lost that pound." I was like, "Oh no, how did that happen?" And then I told him he was sitting on it. And he's obviously considerably happier, but hang in there, Looking Glass. Big love. You know what? I was about to say her name, but I'm the last time I said it perfectly. I wouldn't want to screw it up, Right now, I'm on a streak. I'm on a streak. You do know I say Mish's name wrong every single time I say it, and I've been doing that. It's such a tradition at this point. You know, it's like optical illusion. I don't know exactly how this happened, but somehow in the really early 80s, someone said optical illusion wrong. And it was like elliptical contusion or obstacle conclusion or whatever. And since then, I don't think anyone in my close circle of friends has ever said it correctly. Mara, thank you for asking. Q's status has not changed because we have not had any access to Q. So here's the deal with Q. Currently, he is not back at the facility. So he is still in a medical facility. He's not back to the yard because he can't. He's having a struggle forming words still. So his hands are good. He can write something down to communicate, which is how he was doing it with his mother. Right? They would read what he was saying, and he could listen to her. But that's tough, right? And you need someone else there, and so the communication process is tough. I'm looking forward to him being able to get to the keyboard so that he can use TrueLinks and send me an email. But here's the great news. I mean, the great news is that there's no deficits on his limbs. I had deficits after both of mine, right? Profound deficits after both of mine that come back, right? The damage from an ischemic stroke tends to be different than the damage from a hemorrhagic stroke. And I'm not a doctor, right? But when a hemorrhagic stroke, the blood vessel breaks and the blood starts to leak out into the brain. And when it touches gray matter, bad stuff happens. It's not good for it. That's not what happened to him. It wasn't what happened to me either. What happens is it's like picture a garden hose, right? It just got stuck. And the blood starts backing up and backing up and backing up. And then they give you that TPA or TP, whatever, the clot buster drug, thins everything out, pushes through the garden hose. But during the time that it was backed up, right, it kind of gave, it has everything a little bit screwed up. Sorry. Going from Suboxone back to pain meds, 72 hours of no Suboxone would be really advisable, right? That would be really advisable. They do not mix well, and very often people will get sick when mixing the two. You had no deficits after your stroke, only your speech was affected. Okay, there you go. Excellent. I was very happy to hear that for him. That to me was a good sign, That was a really good sign. He's physically, he's in really good shape. You got to picture this. Let's say you get arrested at 17 years old, right? You're not drinking, right? You're not smoking. I mean, of course, he's had alcohol inside there. Everybody has. But what I mean is, you can't drink 7 days a week, even if you wanted to, right? You could probably count on one hand the number of times that he's had something to drink. And after all of the years of not drinking, not smoking, right? You get 3 meals a day, whether you want it or not, right? And a whole lot of working out. Squirrel, that bag is far too small for you to get in, you dolt. Bag's like this big. The cat's trying to get inside. I dreamt I ate an entire cake last night. It might say that you are using food as a way to make yourself feel better, like some other people use other stuff. Why, thank you, Heather. Isn't that a kind thing to say? With a hemorrhagic stroke, you have a 1 in 3 chance of death. Deficits or fine. I was lucky and have no deficits. Good for you. Blessed. That's a good thing. That's a great question. Honest to God, what a great question. I'm so glad that you asked this. Tommy, just curious, how do fellow inmates react when someone like Q gets sick? Do they have prayer meetings or anything? What a great question. Nobody asks questions like this, Zelda. That's an awesome, awesome jail question. In answer to your question, depending on their circle of friends, absolutely. The fellows will get together and do prayers, do prayer meetings. If it's a group that are not religiously affiliated cats, they will usually just hang out with one another, tell stories about them. But anytime somebody's life is threatened and they have to be removed, it's a different feeling in the prison than anything else. It really is. I think that staff is in more danger after somebody leaves in that kind of a situation. That's probably when I think that the tensions in there are the worst. So after they cut the warden got cut with a knife at Victorville, right? A dude named Muhammad got him from the waist to the shoulder. He's trying to get him across the throat, but he got him all the way up. He took like 70 staples. It was vicious. And they locked down the unit. It got really, really, really nasty with how people were getting treated. But a white guy had gone out prior to us getting locked down. He went out for surgery, and they brought him back. They put him on. He had open heart surgery, and when they brought him back, the guy lived on the second tier. They did not move him downstairs. He had to walk up the stairs. Right after heart surgery, he had to walk up the stairs to go to his cell. And their justification was, we're on a lockdown. He only has to do it once, right? Classy. But instead of moving his cell and doing all that, they had him walk up to his cell, and then he had medication they had to give him 3 times a day. And this was in a place where there were no, you couldn't hit a button and get the guy to come up to your cell. But he died. He didn't make it past his 3rd day back in the prison, and people were pissed. I mean, the kind of pissed you can't imagine. If you're in the same place, that's another great question. If you happen to be on a medical yard, right? I was on a medical yard. I was on a medical yard for 13 months. Sometimes they will allow you to go and visit friends who are in the back. You need you may have heard the term a juice card. Do you know what this means? Okay. In prison, guys use this term a lot. Like, if you got juice, you got the ability to get stuff done, right? So someone will say, I'd really like to go in the back and see, so-and-so, he's sick or whatever. Yeah, dude, I ain't got that kind of juice, right? I can't make that happen. Why don't you use your juice card, bro? Like, you got juice around here. And usually there's somebody who's got that juice card, right? And he'll go and talk to the right cop and be like, hey, man, Tommy's in the back. Can we get somebody? We'd like to go back there and say hi to the cat. What do we got to do, right? Now, if you got a massive juice card, and there are people who do. Like, I remember going to the hole in Phoenix, and I hit a cop, right? Like, this is, you're not on the list of people that they want to treat nicely. But I was there, and the associate warden came up and said, hey, man, he's like, you got some friends on the yard that were asking about you. Come here, kitty. I said, yeah, who was asking about you? He goes, oh, well, I got a letter from a couple of them. I let them write you a kite. I said, damn, Buzz. I'm like, that was cool. He's like, look, I read it. He's like, I wasn't, he's like, but, I thought I'd let you guys communicate. And then he opened my cell door, right? No handcuffs. He opened my cell door and dropped a laundry bag full of soup, coffee. Like, the fellas just put a care package together to take back to the hole. Now, that happens every time someone goes to the hole, always. But it's getting that package to the guy that's damn near impossible, right? People are always ready to pull for their guy, but it's getting the cops to let you do something about it. Now, you may have noticed that we went live today at 1:15. It's not going to be like that every day, I promise. Right? The juice card. Did you forget the juice card, Russ? I'm going to be honest. I wish I could I can't turn this camera, but I have French panes on my door, and the cat will jump so that she's 6 feet off the ground, hanging onto the top of the French pane. She is so damn funny. What's funny, Russ, is that didn't occur to me until I was talking about it. Like you ain't got that kind of juice. There's got a juice card. Thank you very much, Heather. It means an awful lot to me, and I mean that. I'd like you to know I hold all of you in high regard. What we do here every single day is hard, right? Getting up every day and fighting this. All of us made some choices that are going to make the rest of our time on this planet more difficult every single day. Got to get up and fight this thing and do it without dope. And that's hard. And on the days that things don't go well, it's really hard, right? Tomorrow I will be back to the 7 o'clock schedule. The reason that I am not is I have an appointment. So I am ending this one now. Listen, Russ, before I end this, I need you to throw me a couple of thumbs up if you can do a night yard tonight. And we would be doing it earlier, not later, but we'll work that out. If not today, tomorrow. But I want to get on a cruise night. Cruise night. Look at Mara. I want to get on a night yard. Mara dreamed you were picking out prom dresses for me for the cruise. Are you sure that was a dream? I have this strange feeling that I was looking at purple taffeta last night. I don't know. All right, Russ, good. I'm going to reach out to you and we're going to put something together. You hear that? We'll do some night yard. That juice card thing's got me laughing. Me and Russ got to come up with some obscure stuff. But before I make that, there's two other things. You know who I want on that? I want Kelly and I want Kiss Freak. I want a four prison panel. Catch that? I want a 4 prison panel. Now I'm going to leave. If you're one of those people from that prison panel, then reach out to me, please. All right. The rest of you, I will see you on the next one. I'm Captain Tommy Scoville. See ya. Why, oh, why, squirrel? Sorry, Calhounus. Come here, kitty. What are you doing? Come here.